Source is a podcast made by women for women. We talk with a wide variety of experts, ranging from a sex therapist to the CDC and everywhere in between, to bring you the stories you're only going to hear here. Our goal is to entertain and educate because it's more clear now than ever just how much we as women are doing, as parents, as spouses, employees, just as everything. Don't miss out on being in the know. Subscribe to Soul Source wherever you listen to podcasts today. Leave us a review too, because this part's really important. When you leave those reviews, that's how we're able to continue bringing you the content you love each and every week. So buckle up, Soul Source Society, because we're about to get started.
I fear regret far more than I fear anything else. And I feel like a lot of people have regrets of the things I didn't do. Yep. And it's usually something they didn't do because of other people.
Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Raquel Lamel. Long time no talk, am I right? But I am back now, and it feels so good to be back, especially today, because we're talking to the most kick-butt guest on today's show. I mean, you guys are going to absolutely love her. And I actually have someone from our office. She's here today, and she is a big fan of our guest today as well. We'll introduce you to her here shortly. And I want to warn you, too, that today's episode is a little different. We're going to have some swearing in this episode. So if you're not into swearing, just, this might not be your episode, and that's okay. Katie Seller is the founder. She's the founder of a company called Metal Marvels, among other companies. But Metal Marvels is where it all started. And it's a company that makes so many cool things, like coffee mugs and jewelry and sunnies. And it's all built on this premise of breaking down the idea of being ladylike and just being yourself. She doesn't stop there, though. She is also the author of a book called All the Fucks I Give. It focuses on living your best life and not caring what other people think, and she's helping other women to navigate the entrepreneurial world through her Boss as Fuck website and materials. Additionally, she's been taking the public along with her on her IVF journey as she's working on becoming a mother without the help of a man. And she talks about all this in her podcast, Boss Bitch and a Baby. So brace yourself, ladies, because Katie Seller's here with me today. She's going to help us all get our shit straight. Katie, welcome to Soul Source. It's a pleasure to have you on today.
Thank you so much for having me. That's such a good intro.
I know. I mean, I'm writing it and I'm looking for the things to talk about with you. I'm just like, oh my gosh, there's just one cool thing after another cool thing. And it's so much fun.
There's a lot. And then there's always a warning, which is my favorite.
Yes. But I mean, you're on the show today as our guest, but it all kind of stemmed from somebody in our office that I work with who is a big fan. I want to introduce you to Gina over here. Gina has been collecting a whole bunch of things from Metal Marvels. Gina, what do we have over here?
I have some of my very favorite Metal Marvel things. I have my FUCK mug. Do no harm, take no shit. Personal favorite, if my mouth doesn't say it, my face absolutely will. And something I could have used a few weekends ago for our first family wedding in a while. Nope, still fucking single.
Yes. And those, the cups are OGs too. So Gina has been around for a while.
Yes, she's a big fan from what I'm told.
I love it so much.
Thank you for all these great things.
Oh, thank you. Amazing. I love seeing it in the wild.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And so I want to start off and I want to talk with you about kind of how this whole thing started. And like I mentioned, it started kind of with Metal Marvels, but that whole idea of being an entrepreneur, did that start for you in college, or when did you start that whole process?
Yeah, it's so funny because I grew up with a dad who has run a business. He always says that he went broke in 86 because in January he started his business and then in June he paid for me at the hospital. And so I was always surrounded by it, but I just never really thought about it. And then, I was in college. I started working in retail. So my first job was at Forever 21, which if you want to get acclimated with, how can I say this? How bad people are at shopping. That gives you a real good rundown, and the customer service side of it. You learn a lot in that environment. And so I kind of bounced around a little bit. I never really found anything that I stuck with. My dad was always very much against me not staying at a job for very long, but I'm like, if I don't like what I'm doing, like I'm out. Like,
Life is too short, right?
yeah, like I don't want to be there for 30 years. Could you imagine? Oh, I would hate myself. Like I don't get it. And so I kind of bounced around and then I started actually working at Target and I love Target. I give them all of my money and I started working there and I'm also like, I mean, as you can tell, I'm not like an underachiever. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to start working here. And then very quickly, like my plan is to be a district manager. Like I don't want to be in a store 24/7. I want to be bouncing around to different stores and have a corporate office. And like, that was my goal. And I just started seeing like I just feel like it's like that, like constant, I always call it the constant like dangling of promotions where they're like, yeah, but if you do this, then you'll move up to this level. And if you do this, you'll move up. And it's like they just like keep moving the carrot no matter
Yep.
what you do. And I was getting really frustrated. And I was blogging at the time. And in college, I had actually like, my story's like roundabout. I, out of high school, went to interior design school and I got my degree there. And then it was at FITM, so it's like only an AA. And I had noticed the jobs that I wanted a bachelor's just to be an assistant, which I thought was insane. That I would go to 2 more years of college just to get you like fabric samples and coffee. Like seemed nuts, seemed crazy. So I decided to go back to school for business. And so that's when I was in business school and I was blogging and I saw another girl who was a blogger who started a clothing boutique and she seemed to be doing well. And, I'm like, if she can do it, because I didn't really like the girl that much, but I'm like, if she can do it, it just can't be that fucking hard. And so I like literally sat in accounting, which was my least favorite class. I don't know how I passed because I did not pay attention. That's why I have a CPA. And I just like in class, like made the decision and I tried to figure out what I could do that wouldn't, I was living at home at the time. So like what I could do that didn't like overrun my parents' house with stuff. And so I decided on jewelry because it was small. I could keep it contained to at least one room and not, take everything else over. And I wrote up a plan. I basically had it like set by the end of class. The only thing that I had to decide later was figure out a name. And I got it like up and started pretty quickly. It definitely doesn't look like it does today. It looked night and day compared to it, but it started at least. I in college in 2012.
Wow. Yeah. And I mean, now it's a full-fledged company. I was looking on your website and you guys got like everything. You got clothes and coffee mugs and I mean, oh my gosh, it spans the gamut totally.
Yeah, I'm like, I will put curse words on everything. If it exists, I will do it.
How many other businesses do you operate? Because Metal Marvels, that's one, but there's so many things you're a part of.
So technically at this point, in 2021, I technically won just because due to COVID and all of that stuff, I ended up actually bringing See the Change, which is all eyewear. I actually started that right at the start of COVID because obviously I saw the world imploding. And I wanted to be able to give back, like, because through Metal Marvels, like typically we've done, we used to do like one-off, like donation things. So I had literally just moved here a week before the 1 October shooting. So like we did a thing for that where like for the weekend, I took all the profits and donated it. Hurricane, I can't remember which hurricane it was. One of the hurricanes, because we have a lot, obviously. That one, like we basically had done one-off things. And so I hadn't had it built into the business. And so I thought of See the Change, obviously being a play on words and then also what we're selling. So all eyewear, but that would give back to an organization or multiple. And so I started that, I mean, literally right at the start of COVID. And then that started, like I said, as the like donation. So like a vehicle of change, basically. And then I think a year prior to that, I actually started Fucking Good Coffee because I am obsessed with coffee, as you can tell.
Our whole office is obsessed with coffee here. All of us girls there's like 3 coffee machines. I think we have an espresso machine in the kitchen. We got it all.
Yeah, I don't know how people survive without it. And so yeah, so I was like, you know what, it's funny because I had this idea. I'm like that you can, you can't go into Starbucks and order like sassy or like named drinks, even though when if I go in there before 10 o'clock, because I don't wake up early, that's not my thing. If I go in there early, like I hate life. So I'm not like super chipper. And then it's funny is not long after I thought about starting it, that this meme thingy floated around that said, something like you can't go into Starbucks and order a just fuck me up. And I was like, well, you can at mine. And so that's one of the names of my coffee is just fuck me up. And it's an espresso blend, so it's stronger.
I love that. That is great.
I'm like, I want it to be like bold things, or like this is my cold brew bag. I'm like, it's called a daily water intake because my dad always jokes that that's how he gets his water is coffee. So like I wanted it to be, like fun and like bold names and things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, with like COVID and whatnot, it just became super expensive, obviously, of trying to like keep them all separate when they're not necessarily that different from each other. And so I brought them all under the one umbrella. And that way too, I think, I always ask, I have a VIB group and I ask my customers a lot, like, what do you want me to do? Like, is this what you guys want? And I always ask them like, would you prefer that I bring it all onto one website? Because it's not only cheaper for me, but they can then shop everything from one cart and not have to. I had people that were checking out from multiple sites and there was no other way to combine them. So for now, it's basically all under Metal Marvels, but they are still kind of their like own separate thing.
So like sub brands under one parent brand, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
Makes it easier.
Well, and I mentioned that your whole premise is like, being yourself and not really caring what other people think. And this whole interview is kind of going to stem around these sorts of things. And so I want to ask you about, you're a boss of a company and you are not what people think when they think boss, not traditional anyway. I mean, you've had colored hair, tattoos, obviously, we swear a lot, swear like a sailor. So how do you run your company and specifically going against these norms in society?
Yeah, I think, I feel like in every way, I've gotten away from the bright colored hair just because I actually got bored.
Wow.
Yeah, that's one of the things, like with me, I'm always like, I can hang out for a while and like we tend to like fluctuate and change it, but eventually I'm like, I'm just kind of bored, so can we do whatever? And then obviously now, like with being pregnant, I had her like do something to where we can like, I don't have to go that often to get my hair done and all of that. But I feel like, in every way, like I do think, thankfully, that like more bosses are starting to look like me or look different. But I think that like the overly like dated thing to like expect, a white male in a suit, and like obviously in our society, especially big corporations, that's still a thing. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we see a lot of white male CEOs. But I think in the small business sector, I just think we're expanding that. And there's so many, whether it's like Black woman owned or, I am LGBTQ woman owned, like all of these things. And I think just honestly existing like challenges everything. Mm-hmm. And I also think in my being very vocal about everything also challenges things, because I have no problem like standing against things and like, sharing my opinions. And I try to make myself I'm getting back into it because I feel like with just the chaos of business and all of these things, you tend to like get more into the CEO role and not as feel like socially engaged. So I'm actually trying to get back to putting my face on the brand, like making reels, doing all of that, like to further challenge the way a boss is supposed to look. And like the girls who work for me too, they're used to me now. Like, I'm like, if you don't like profanity, you're probably not, this is not going to work. And so luckily all of them are like, by all means, like, do you?
Well, and do you find, because I know I'm kind of like this personally, so I'm just curious. Do you find that the swearing actually, like, does it loosen people up? Does it relax them a little bit? Like
I
your
think
employees,
so.
like, yeah.
Yeah, I think
Like
so.
I
I mean,
always feel like it's a little less formal.
yeah, and I think that's the thing. Like, I think they've realized with me is there's not much like formal. I'm like we're like one of the girl who works for me, like we've become like best friends. Like she's amazing. We talk all the damn time. And like so like obviously with her it's rather informal. But I feel like even like the other girls, like it's never been like, obviously if there has to be a conversation about a package not getting out or
Mhm.
something, like we have those conversations, but it's never this like traditional, let me pull you into my office and have this conversation and
Yeah.
I'm punishing you and all of these things. And because I remember being in management at Target, like those are some of the shittiest conversations I've ever had. And because too, like in looking at them, you're like, this isn't actually a big deal. And they're making me like reprimand you for something that like could just be a simple coaching conversation of like, hey, tomorrow when you're doing this, could we maybe like try to do this instead of like, hey, you're not meeting expectations, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, it's an angry conversation. And I'm like, it just doesn't, I don't think it works. I really don't.
So elaborate on that a little bit more. I mean, what is the importance of operating outside of those social norms?
I mean, I personally think that certain rules are meant to be broken. Um, not laws. Let me preface that.
Rules.
Not laws. I'm not out here like breaking the law and like running rampant, but like little rules that I just feel like, and especially too, I feel like they always tend to be rules that are set, well, rules that are set by society. Like
Mhm.
it's not government saying, hey, don't beat up this guy. It's people saying, well, this is what you should look like. And ultimately, I don't know who gave society the authority to tell us who we could be and what we could do and what we could look like. And I don't know. I just personally think that societal ideals are like the biggest crock of shit. And they the shit thing is that they like affect so many people's lives,
Mhm.
and even if you don't even realize it. And so if I can like push that as far as possible, like that's my goal. My parents are used to it by now. I'm like, this is what it is.
I'm sure there was a little bit of an adjustment with that though as you were growing up from them.
Yeah, I my mom hated that I swore. Like I literally got in trouble, I think, when I was like 17. She was not about it. Even though what's funny is my first word was actually fuck. My dad worked in the car industry my entire life, and so he was like a mechanic starting out, and he was always around that atmosphere, and they're rough, and he said it a lot, and so then apparently I did too. She wasn't pleased. Um, and then yeah,
That's
I
funny.
remember getting in trouble at like 17. I said something, and she was not about it, and then I started this, and even then, when I first started, it wasn't what it is now. So she didn't have to like ease into it yet. And then I started swearing more. And so she got a little bit used to it, but it was still the like, well, don't do it around grandma and and all of that. And then I rebranded and I was like, well, this is what we're doing. So
And now you run a company that has swear words on everything.
now, yeah, now I make a living saying fuck a lot. And even like, I don't remember how long ago, it was a few years ago, but my dad's mom, before she passed away, she was one of the ones where I like learned. It's actually funny, this little necklace that I have, it actually says oh shit. And it was actually hers. She had, yeah, and when she passed away, she had this little booklet of like charms and a necklace, and like she had like a Hawaii and like a number one mom and then an F for Fern and then oh shit. And I was like, well, that's the one I'm wearing. And so I never take it off. So she was definitely more lenient, but my mom's mom was not. And then like a few years ago, I said something and she was like, honestly, she's like, I'm too old to give a shit at this point. I was like, yes, we're at a point now where I can just fully be me. And like, obviously I'm not like dropping F bombs left and right about my grandma, but she's like, I don't care. Like, this is excellent. I like this point where we're at.
So, with Metal Marvels, the twist of you have profanity and lettering for your customers. They get to choose on social to donate to and represent all these notoriously underrepresented groups. And that's really what sets Metal Marvels apart. Why was that such an important piece for you to include in the business?
Yeah. Like I said before, we did that like one-off donation thing.
Mhm.
And then when I started to see the change, what I did is I found this app that's really cool. It integrates into your Shopify, and you choose the like donation level, and then you can choose like just one or a few. So I think we have like 8 to 10 charities available on there. So the customer can pick either to split the money between everybody, or they can pick a cause that they, more either closely identify with or, have a connection to. And so then the money can just go solely to that organization. And like with that, I think it's because like we're so surrounded by corporate and this like cookie cutter, like politically correct thing. Whereas for the brand myself, I prefer to like, we stand loudly in what we believe in. Like when I think it was not long after, I want to say that after George Floyd was murdered,
Okay.
obviously there was stuff happening everywhere. And a lot of brands, like small brands, were staying super silent. And I really wanted to make it known of like, this is what you get when you're shopping with me. Like, I'm not vocal, or I'm not vocal about being, I'm pansexual and I'm not quiet about it, but I don't think it's necessarily broadcast that much in the business. But I made a thing of like, before you shop with us, this is what you're like, this is what you're supporting. We support equality. And Black Lives Matter. We support humans, like in general, like that's what you get with us. And we lost some people, of course. I knew it would happen. But we gained so much more. And I just think like, I think not enough people do it. I think especially like corporations outside of current events and Pride Month, like the rainbow flag is heavy in June in corporate everywhere. As long as they believe in it or will like pander to it, they'll put a rainbow flag on things to sell it. And I just think it's not happening enough like on the daily. And this world needs help. Like
Amen.
it's a shit show all the time. And so if we can do, our part, like obviously I don't have the room for like major huge donations, but it gives the customer that option to, pick a charity that they identify with, or even just split evenly, and that 10% of their order is automatically donated. And I think small businesses are actually, which is crazy, doing way more than corporates, even though corporates have mass money. But yeah, I think it's really important. I personally think, I know there's a lot of brands that like stay neutral, which I guess fine. I just think, especially like these days, I think customers like want to know that they like identify with you. Like there are places I won't shop because I know what they support.
And you have to dig for a lot of that, like to see those big companies.
Yeah, there's blaring ones, Chick-fil-A and Hobby Lobby. Never in my life. But like, I think small business and people being able to see that like impact, I think they can see it at a greater rate than a big corporation. And so I can't die with a bunch of money. So why not, donate as we go that can help somebody else like survive,
Okay, so we talked about your business, but there's a lot more. So you are also the author of a book. It's called All the Fucks I Give. I feel like this title, it summarizes so much of what you stand for. So why do you think women in particular, I feel like women are so worried about what other people think. And is it in your opinion a way, like, is it the way we're brought up? Is what society tells us to do? Is it just the fact that we're women and we operate this way? Why do we care so much?
I wish we did not. I think because society tells us we should give a shit. Our parents, especially for millennials and older, Because I think the younger generations, I feel like they're being raised by us or, people just a little bit older than us. So their ideals are changing. Whereas millennials and older, we're raised by the older generation. And their way of teaching is to we have to present, especially women, present a certain way to get ahead. They're stuck on this notion of what women should be.
Yep.
And it's very very easy to see in the older generation, and obviously they raised us all, so we have to then break this cycle of that. I think all outdated gender roles have to go. I despise them. Ladylike literally is my least favorite word in the entire dictionary. I just think for me, it's far more important to be a good human than to fit societal ideals. And it's just this I literally think a lot has to do with what you were brought up, but for some reason, like I said, I don't know where society got the audacity to tell us what to do, but they do. And I think because of how we were raised, we hold on to it so hard, and then it affects everything, literally everything. I also vehemently believe in my deathbed theory. I don't know if you've heard it. I mentioned on my podcast. Yeah, I mentioned on my podcast. I put it in my book, which if anybody does buy my book, spoiler alert, the first 90% is actually empty because all the fucks I give is 0. So it's a little bit of a play on that. The 10th chapter talks about my journey to getting to this place of not giving a fuck and not holding on to societal ideals. But I talk about my deathbed theory. And basically it's that in the end of all of this, you are the only person on that deathbed, not your parents, not your spouse, not your children, not any lineage, not anybody, not society, nothing. It's just you there dying, to be a bit morbid. And I would much rather lay on that bed knowing that I lived this whole thing for myself with, what I want to do, with my goals, with my dreams, and not do it according to somebody else's opinions or beliefs of what I should do or wants for my life or societal ideals or any of that. Because I fear regret far more than I fear anything else. I don't want to be in that spot with regret. And I feel like a lot of people have regrets of the things I didn't do. Yep. And it's usually something they didn't do because of other people, because of this, what we should be and how we should act and all of that. And I just think it's so shit to know that people get to that point and have regrets about things like that. And when they could have just done it. And if they failed at it, or, it didn't work, or they got let down, or whatever the case, at least you did it. That's my thing. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it because I would much rather just figure it out than not do it and regret it 40 years later.
To that point, that's exactly what you're doing, not only professionally, but personally. So, girls, let's just be honest. Girls in general, we see a lot of the princess mentality, right? The prince comes in and saves you. You're not doing that. And you're challenging societal norms yet again, but you're also living for you and what you want. You've been taking a very public journey here and trying to become a mother, which congratulations, because you are pregnant. There's a baby on the way. So tell me a little bit about this journey that you've been on to become a mom.
Yeah. I think, it's funny because I am pansexual, which means that I love hearts, not parts. So you would think I have more options. But I found that that's not necessarily true. I don't say that I'm picky, but I have things that I want. I am super driven. So somebody who is not, it just doesn't fully really work. So there's certain little things, and I just, I was struggling to find it. But the funny thing is actually all of this started with my 30th birthday. Not even family planning. It started with my 30th birthday. Nobody could like do anything or go anywhere. And I felt like my 30th birthday was far bigger than like just going to dinner.
Yeah.
Like, I'm turning 30. I want to fucking celebrate. And so I was like, okay, I have an option. I either just do dinner, like, and I adore my friends, but like dinner wasn't very exciting, or I do something. And so I actually booked a solo trip to the Bahamas. It was my first time out of the country, first time traveling alone.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, I know. My parents were like, don't think I like this idea. And I was like, fuck it, I'm turning 30. And it was the time of my life. And I like, also too, I'm like, now I love solo travel because I got to like do whatever I want on my schedule. If I wanted to sleep until noon one day, or if I wanted to get up early and lay on the beach, like I could do whatever I wanted. I didn't have to wait, plan with other people or anything. And it was like, there literally I remember I was reading a book and I was just kind of doing like, you know, some soul searching on the beach, and it was there that I decided, I'm like, I am no longer going to wait for anybody for anything. Like, why? And I feel like everything sort of ties into like my deathbed theory, because it goes back to the same thing of, what am I waiting around for, and am I going to regret waiting around? And so, yeah, it was at that moment that I was like, okay, I'm not waiting around. And then not long after, like, of course, like I went through the stages of like, again, societal timelines of, oh, I'm supposed to be married and have babies by 25.
Okay, let me just pause you here where the timeline thing is so real. I've personally struggled, and so many people, like, you're like racing against the clock, which is so much anxiety that women do not need.
Yeah, it is awful. Like I did a podcast and I was telling people, I'm like, if you're in your 20s and you know that you want children later in life, but you have shit to do, go freeze your eggs and deal with it later. Because nobody told us that. People were like, you're supposed to be married by 25 and have babies and start a family and fuck your career. You're supposed to do this and this and this. And that's not the road for everybody. Like, it's not. And like, I could not imagine having children and being married to the person that I was with at 25. Like, I would be very unhappy. and I just think, I'm like, more people need to be realistic with young people of like, your journey is not some cookie cutter thing. So yeah, if you need to freeze your eggs and then go to your fucking law school or whatever you want to do, by all means do it. But no one's telling people this. And like, you have so much, like, there's just so much at our fingertips that you can actually use to your advantage if you get out of these fucking timelines. Like, they drive me nuts. And like, that was it was a big one for me, obviously. Like at 25, or I was like, I think probably 26 rolled around and I was like, I'm not where I'm supposed to be. And I mean, I'm glad I'm not, because I wouldn't have started the business probably. I wouldn't, be here now. And I just, I think had it gone that route, it would have been so different. And I don't know that I would have been as happy. And so, so it kind of like, I feel like it all ropes in together, but I was like, I'm not waiting for anybody. I can't do this. And then it was like not long after that I was like, okay, I do want children. I am not necessarily finding the person that I want to spend my life with, which is like crazy. I'm a Cancer, so I'm like a hopeless romantic. So I fall in love real easily, but like never, not the fairy tale shit it should be. And not even necessarily a fairy tale, but like somebody who actually like, I don't know, lights a spark inside of you that you're like, yeah, I actually like this person and want to be in this. And so, I was kind of fed up. And my mom's like, you do realize, like, because I work a lot and I work from home. So like, I'm home a lot and I'm also a bit of an introvert. So I don't mind staying home. And I was like, you do realize you have to like go out to meet people. I'm like, that sounds terrible, first of all. and I also like, I moved to Vegas in 2017. And I thought the selection in Southern California was bad. The selection here is even worse. And so
sorry if you live in Vegas.
Yeah, I mean, hit me up, but haven't found them. And so, yeah, I was just, you know what? I'm like, this is what I'm going to do. And of course, my parents are like, grandkids. And I'm like, yeah, well, I'm like, and I literally one day they were here visiting and I said, to be honest, I'm like, there might be a chance that it happens without somebody. My dad's like, I don't give a fuck how you do it. Just give me a grandkid. And I'm like, cool, as long as you're on board. And so, yeah, I started searching for donors. Probably, I want to say late 2018-ish. I started searching, and then I found one. I did a few at-home attempts in early 2019. And then I did a Medicaid, and then there was a little split in between there. I did meet somebody. It was super long distance. It was a whole thing. I stupidly postponed things for love. And it didn't work, obviously. And I came home, and again, I was like, this is stupid. Like, I literally did what I said I wasn't going to do, which was wait for somebody. And, I postponed for this person, and I'm like, fuck this. I am going to I'm jumping back into it. So I called my doctor again. We ended up doing a medicated IUI, and then, which didn't work. And then I did switch to IVF, because I had only one vial of my donor sperm left. And he, like, this sounds so weird, but he ran out. It's weird. I'm like, he sold out. So odd. But I think he donated years ago and then stopped. And so it eventually just runs out. And so, yeah, we did a frozen embryo transfer, crazily enough on my birthday on June 25th. And I was like, I'm getting knocked up on my birthday. Like, how fucking crazy is that? So weird. And yeah, now I am 5 weeks, 3 days.
Awesome. And that's with that vial, that last vial of that donor. Oh my gosh, what a story.
Yeah, I have two. Well, we obviously used one embryo, and I do have another embryo still on ice for later.
Oh my goodness. All of that is so cool. Like, you're down to the wire. It happens on your birthday. Oh my gosh. I'm so happy for you. I'm so excited.
Thank you. Yeah, it got postponed. I had to have surgery and have my left tube removed. And I was kind of frustrated. Like, I'm like, I just feel like I keep waiting. Like, it just keeps getting pushed back. And I had a few people that are like, trust timing. And I was like, you guys are so annoying. And then and then I'm like, okay, maybe it worked out because it's on my birthday. Like, that just seems like perfect. Like, it's cancer season. I'm a Cancer. It's my birthday. Like, we're getting pregnant on my birthday. Like, I just felt like it, like, everything kind of like aligned. And I'm not super woo woo, but I'm like, I feel like it aligned perfectly. So clearly it worked.
And I mean, you've been so open and honest. You share everything, goes into much more detail on all of your social pages and your podcast. Why are you so open with everybody about all of this stuff?
Yeah. I have always been like a pretty open book. I don't know. I feel like maybe it's the Cancer thing in me, but I'm like, oh, you want to know my life story? Real quick. And so I've always been pretty open, but I also feel like too, in starting this journey, like, I did not see a lot of people talking about IVF, or infertility, or like the single mom by choice thing. Like, there's not a lot talking about it. I do love that now we're seeing a little bit more, like, I know there's a few celebrities like that have done the single mom by choice thing, which I love. Like, I'm sure it was a little bit easier in the fact they have so much money, but obviously, like, we all have the same struggles through it. And I also I just feel like them being in such a public eye, like, it just helps normalize it a little more. Cause I think it's still very taboo for people that you're having a baby on your own and like all of that. But I want more people to know that, like, they're not doing this alone. Like, you're not the only person going through this, because you do feel like it. It is very, very isolating. Like, and obviously, like, I don't have a partner, so I'm doing all of this alone, like shots on my own, meds on my own, all of this stuff. Where, like, some people, of course, like, at least you have a partner to kind of bounce things off of. But even then, like, they don't know all that you're going through. Like, you're putting drugs in your body, and your moods are changing, and your body's changing, and it's like a whole thing. And and I feel like the fact that like, what is it, like 1 in 8 women are infertile or deal with infertility, like it's a big number.
Yeah.
And you know, it's like, I think a lot of them don't share for fear of judgment, fear of loss. Like I know a lot of people still in going through IVF like won't share for the longest time because they just don't want to, you know, experience loss publicly or things like that. And I personally think that we should be more open. I think the support is there if you share. And there's so many more people that are going through all of this than you know. And I think, you know, and if you remain, you know, silent and kind of like, you know, quiet about all of it, you don't have that person that has the experience that can, you know, understand what you're going through. And so
Mhm.
if I can share, I've had a lot of people, I've had some that like called a fertility doctor because of me, which is crazy. And you know, some like have, you know, at least got baseline appointments or figured things out. Or like I said, I literally preach to the 20-year-olds, like if you want children later, like freeze your eggs because no one else is telling you to do that. Or like just, you know, if you know that you want this, like I would not wait. And I've had a few that are like in their 30s and same thing, struggling to find somebody that they actually want to spend time with, let alone have children with.
Yeah.
And also choosing to go, you know, the single mom by choice route, because again, it's why wait for something? Because that's my thing. My biggest thing was I would not like ever regret waiting for somebody. Like I could find somebody when I'm 90. I don't care. But I would regret not having children because unfortunately that is the one thing that does have a time clock. Of
Mhm.
course, you're 45 and want to have kids and can't do it naturally. There's obviously other options and there's adoption and all of these great things. But to have like a biological child, there is somewhat of a timeline, unfortunately, which
Yeah.
is again why I'm a proponent for freezing your eggs early.
Gives you more time.
Yeah, I would have done that had somebody told me. Um, but yeah, like that's the one thing that has a time. And so I won't like, I won't regret waiting to find somebody. And if I don't, then I don't. But I would very much have regretted not trying to have a family of my own and, you know, have children. Like that is the one thing that like I knew from the very beginning was like my supposed to do. Like not timelines, not a societal thing. Like I feel it in my bones that like
Mhm.
that's something was made to do. And so yeah, it was just, it's a decision it was not obviously like lightly, but it was pretty easy for me that like I knew I had to. So if my sharing can like help somebody else do that, like by all means, I will tell everything. And I pretty much do.
Well, you're so unapologetically yourself, right? I mean, and you're doing these things that truly scare a lot of people. You know, a trip on your own, a baby on your own, a business on your own. This scares a lot of people. What do you want women to know? Because I gotta assume it's freeing, not caring what other people think, doing what you want, living for you. What do you want people to know?
Yeah. I mean, I think I want all people to live this way. Like I feel like especially like women of color, like my fellow LGBTQ babes, like there is just so much weight on us from societal norms and other people's opinions, and all it does is weigh us down. Like it doesn't affect society one
Mhm.
bit, whether you rock a crop top as a big girl. I say fat girl, I'm fat, I don't care. If you rock a crop top as a fat girl, or if you like work as a stripper, like there's all of these things that, you know, societal has like all this shit that it puts on us and it causes us to hurt. You know,
Yeah.
it does not affect society one bit because there are still people in strip clubs handing out money. So, you know, if you hold back what you want to do in this world, you're not hurting anybody other than yourself. And I I truly think like, and I try all that I can to like teach this, but I just feel like reserving your like the fucks you give for like very, very few and specific things like frees you so much from trying to fit this like mold and especially like please others. Like And let me tell you, it is a learning process constantly. Like there are moments where I fall back into like the people pleaser thing, and then I'm like, no, like fuck that. I'm doing what I want for me. Like I'm not gonna like, kind of roll over just to appease somebody else. It's not gonna happen. But it's a work in progress. It's not like one day you wake up and you're like, fuck it all. I mean, that's how I am. But like it's a work in progress of just like, because of course, like I'll get, whether it's negative comments about the shit I sell, or I was defending trans youth on Instagram, and some guy was just, saying stupid shit, and then his, of course, like one comeback is to call me fat, and I'm like, first of all, you act like I give a shit that you called me that. Second, you called the right person that, because I don't care, but there are people out there that still care.
I do. Yeah.
And and I all the time, I tell them, I'm like, you need to do fucking better, because you could have said that to the person who's on their last leg, and like you could be the reason that someone takes their life. And do you really want to do that? And so, there's shit like that, or like, especially when people come for the stuff I create, I don't know why that hurts me more. Like you can call me fat all day, but if you come for what I make, I'm like, whoa. and I have a moment where it hurts, and then I'm like, wait a minute, why the fuck does it matter? And it's such a work in progress. But like, I don't know, I and you and us and everybody, like we have one life to live, and I'm gonna do it how I see fit, like period, and do so while being a good human. I think people have this idea that like giving the finger to societal norms and people's opinions like means you're an asshole. And like I can be when I need to be, just especially standing up for things that obviously are super important to me. But like I truly believe that like you could be a badass in your life and treat humans with respect and not be a dick. And like it blows my mind that people still don't get that. But like if more people adopted that, and again, it's a daily practice, like you have to like constantly remind yourself that none of this shit matters. It's life changing, because you lift this weight of this imaginary shit that society put on you that again did not have the audacity to do. Like, no, I don't know where they got the authority, but like removing all of that, I swear it's like it literally is life changing.
And to that point, I mean, you talking about the social media thing, like that's a whole nother can of worms. But you got just regular societal norms, and I feel like social media makes it even worse. Like, why do we care what strangers think? But for some reason, that just sticks.
Yeah, I mean, and that's, I'm like the internet is it's a thing. But like, what was it? It was like a random post about I'm a 90 Day Fiance fan.
Hey, I watched that show too.
Obsessed. Even though most of them are train wrecks, but it was like a fan page, and someone commented, and instead of like the one girl, I don't want to name her name because who knows, but she's problematic to say the least. And it was hanging out with another girl, and someone commented and was like, wow, she looks really big. And another girl was like, I think you meant cow. And I'm like, like why? Like you can think she's a terrible human. First of all, you're creating a judgment based off a very manipulated TV show. Like I'm not stupid. I know that shit is manipulated. I also talked to one of the girls that's on there, and she's like, yeah, it's a whole thing. And so like, I know it is very manipulated, as most reality TV is. But like you're basing judgments off of a manipulated show. And sure, I think she's problematic as fuck. So say, I don't think she's great, or, this action was terrible. She did this XYZ. But to like randomly, just comment on someone's weight is insane. And they're like, oh, well, they always do that. She's promoting obesity. And I'm like, well, first of all, health doesn't equal weight, but that's a whole other topic. But like, why what made you feel like you needed to be a dick to a stranger on the internet? Like you think you know her because she's on TV. You don't know her. And who, like, what does it matter if it's her or some like influencer or whatever that comes across your screen tomorrow? Like it's a real person. So Like, why? I don't know where, I don't know. That's another whole thing about audacity. I don't know where people got it to like just be so rude. And like I said, you can live this like don't give a fuck life and not give a shit about people's opinions, and you don't have to be a dick to people. Like it's it's the weirdest thing. It blows my mind every single day.
Well, and when we're dealing with all this, like women, we need to support other women, because that's half the problem, is that cattiness, right? So who do you go to for support, and what are some ways that we as women can kind of be there for each other?
Yeah. I mean, a big support for me, although obviously not a woman, is my dad, just because he's been in business for like the longest time ever. He knows the shit. But also, I have a few close friends that I've met through business that are in e-commerce as well. So like they know what I deal with. Like the multitude of customers and some of the whack responses you get from people, and like just all of these things. And I think like having somebody like, I have friends who aren't in business who obviously support me, but like having somebody that knows what you deal with on a daily basis, and like this weird ebb and flow of business, and like especially with fucking COVID and like all of this, like I think having people that like literally know what you're going through, like again with like the IDF thing, like having someone who literally knows the exact like shit you're dealing with can help you so much, because then you can bounce, ideas off of each other, or like celebrate together or commiserate together. Like a friend of mine and I both were like, dude, this year, like I'm this close.
Not good.
I am so close. It's been insane. But yeah, I think finding people who are like in the realm that you are helps tremendously, because you can just like, you get it. Like each of you get the other person, and it's real helpful.
For sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's great to have that.
My last question, this is probably my most important one for you, but if you have to choose between coffee and Sunnies, which one wins?
Oh, I mean, coffee, hands down. Like, no question. I can survive without Sunnies. Like,
just walk around like this all day.
Worst comes to worst, I will be like this, but I cannot survive without coffee, nor can other people survive without me having coffee. So coffee, it keeps me level-headed.
That was a question from Gina. She really wanted to know that answer.
I've been given, I will accessorize with all of our Sunnies, and I love them so much, but I have to have the coffee. Otherwise, nothing gets done. I don't function.
I totally hear you there.
That's why I was very glad when I started the whole process, I was like, ooh, I don't have to cut out coffee, do I? And my doctor was like, well, what are you drinking? And at that point, this is like in 2019, I was like a triple shot with like a Premier protein drink in it, because it was just delicious. And then you get your protein and blah, blah, blah. My doctor's like, no more of those, but you can have coffee. I'm like, oh shit. Okay. So then now I drink iced coffee every single day, but like, she hasn't necessarily cut me back. Like I'm allowed to have one of our like bigger mugs. She's like, you can have one glass. I'm like, okay.
That coffee cutback is real, man.
It's not two, but I will take it.
It's hard. It is hard.
Yeah. I was like, if she said I had to cut out, like, oh, I don't know what would have happened. It's a necessary lifeline for sure.
Yep. For sure. Well, thank you, Katie. Thank you. This has been fun. There's lots of laughs. This was a great podcast. I appreciate you being here. I'm going to make sure we share some links to Metal Marvels. Anyone wants to check out all your stuff there, they could definitely check it out. And again, yeah, just thank you so much for being here today.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I loved this so much.
Thank you for listening. And if you want to hear more Soul Source, just subscribe to our show. We're available wherever you listen to podcasts. And you can watch us too. We're on YouTube. Just look for Soul Source. Soul Source is brought to you by Red Shoes Inc., a leading agency specializing in crisis and strategic communications, media relations, social media, and so much more. To learn more about Soul Source and Red Shoes, visit us at redshoesinc.com.